Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a Disney film. What? Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy here on the final day of BCG Disney Week. I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm not gonna miss it at all. To present you all with a special BCG Disney Week edition of Into the Void! Where I share some of your hottest takes and criticisms that you sent me on my Facebook, Twitter, and my YouTube community page. And you guys kind of get the gist of what this all is. Unfortunately, our good friend Takashi Bukat will not be directing this episode. Instead, you'll be dealing with my crappy camcorder. No offense, Jaden. I love it. I love it. See, I'm kissing the camera right now, Jaden. See, I love the camera. All right. Enough of the weirdness. Let's get to your comments and my responses. Ghibli is greater than Disney. Come on now. Did it really need to be said? Of course it's better than Disney. The next two comments come from what I've playfully dubbed the Black Cauldron Defense Squad. And they wrote, the Black Cauldron was highly ambitious. It's super underrated. As well as the Black Cauldron doesn't get enough love. To which I respond, I sort of kind of agree that it was highly ambitious. It was definitely against type for Disney, who are known for very cutesy, playful, family-friendly type stories. The Black Cauldron is neither of those things. Sure, they have that very, very annoying character who we will not speak about in this video. But other than that, it's a really grim story, it's a really dark story. And I do admire the risks that they take. I see the potential in the Black Cauldron. I mean, if you remember all those years back when I was talking about Disney remakes that need to happen or Disney films that need to be remade, what was my number one choice? The Black Cauldron. And I still stand by that to this day because it does have a lot of potential to be a good film if you have the right writers, the right director, the right cast, the right crew behind it to pull the story forward and try not to limit the budget. The sad thing is that the potential for greatness of Black Cauldron just did not meet the actual execution of what it was, and it wasn't good. I'm sorry. If you guys like it, that's perfectly fine. You can like the film. But the truth is, there's a difference between potential and reality. It had the potential to be great, but the reality is that it sucked. Thank you, Jeremy Johns. This one's a very topical comment. DuckTales 2017 is better than the original. So as you all know, I recently just reviewed DuckTales 2017 and I gave it a glowing review. I love the show. It's not only one of the best kids shows out right now, but one of the best shows on the Disney Channel. And while I know there are a lot of people that do love the original DuckTales, I am not one of those people. I don't have a fond memory of DuckTales. Like I said in my review, I was more of a Goof Troop guy. You know, I was a Darkwing Duck kind of person. And while there were a lot of fun things about DuckTales, I kind of agree with the commenter here. I do think that DuckTales 2017 is better than its predecessor. I know that seems like a blasphemous statement to make, because how could you say it's better than the original? Well, I think it's better story-wise. I think it's better character-wise. It's better in the music. Now, it's unfair to judge the quality of animation as they come from two different eras of animation, and one has more abilities to use computerized animation tools, while the other one not so much. So, while I do think that the animation is better, I won't do a comparison there. But as I've always told you guys, the two things I always focus on when it comes to any film, anime, TV show, or any form of entertainment or storytelling medium is that I focus on story and characters. How good are they? And while I won't say that the original DuckTales has bad stories or bad characters, they're just not as good as the remakes. And sometimes, guys, in some cases, the remake is just better. Once again, to reiterate, I am not saying in this video that the original DuckTales was a bad show. It is a good kids show. I just personally think that DuckTales 2017 is a far more entertaining, stronger, and better show. Goofy Movie is overrated, and the fandom surrounding it came out of nowhere. I disagree. I would not say that a Goofy Movie is overrated. If anything, it's been underappreciated for many years and just recently has seen a resurgence in popularity by a fringe number of people. I wouldn't even say that the fandom for a Goofy Movie is a large fandom. It's just a couple of people who either grew up with the film, rediscovered the film after many years, or have watched it and really enjoyed it for themselves. And you could also attribute the rise in popularity to a Goofy Movie because of the Nostalgia Critic. And recently, I know Sideways, he made a video praising the music of a Goofy Movie. So that's probably where this resurgence in popularity came from. But honestly, it's not that it's overrated, it's just that the fringe minority that talk about Goofy Movie are very vocal about their love for a Goofy Movie. Maybe that's the thing that you're dealing with, is that you keep hearing people talk about it. But keep in mind, like, not everybody talks about it. And I'm glad, personally, that Goofy Movie is getting its time in the sun. It's a highly underrated and underappreciated Disney film. In fact, I think a long time ago when I was talking about the top 10 underappreciated Disney films, I think I mentioned a Goofy Movie. And I still stand by that placement because it is highly underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it. It has a really awesome soundtrack. Like, really listen to that soundtrack again. It is lit as hell. Like, Stand Out, Eye to Eye, some of the best pop songs I ever heard in a Disney movie, guys. It's so good. And I also would recommend watching Sideways' video talking about the music of a Goofy Movie, which made me even appreciate a Goofy Movie even more. I'll even link it in the description so you guys can go check it out. Oh, would you look at that? Another comment talking about how overrated a Disney film is. Which one is it this time? Oh, The Little Mermaid is an overrated Disney film. Okay, you know what? Time out for a minute, guys. We need to have a talk about this overuse of the word overrated. Now, I won't disagree that something that is overrated could mean that it's not a good film. But sometimes we throw around the phrase overrated way too much to where it's starting to dilute the meaning of overrated. It's like when I was doing my ripoffs video, people have been throwing ripoffs around so many times that people equate ripoff to mean bad. But sometimes a ripoff is not bad, it's just highly unoriginal. Just because something is overrated does not mean that it is a bad film. It just means that it got too many plays, maybe too many people talk about it. It's been overexposed. It's not overrated, it's just overexposed, and there's too many people talking about how much they love it. So I don't even think it's a criticism on the quality of the film. It's more of people pointing out how they're really sick and tired of hearing about it. In the case of The Little Mermaid, it is not an overrated film. And if you want to say it's an overrated film, I need a little bit more as to why it's overrated. Do you think it's overrated because you don't think it's a good film? Or do you think it's overrated because you're just sick and tired of hearing people talk about the film? And if it's the second one, I have to ask you a couple questions. 1, do you think the story's good? 2, do you think the characters are good? 3, do you still like the music? 4, do you like the animation? 5, do you still watch the film regularly? If you say yes to any of those things or all 5, guess what? Yeah, it might be overrated, but that don't mean that you don't like the film. And you know what? I'm not even done yet. You know what's truly overrated? The phrase overrated. We need to stop saying this phrase, guys. It's getting really annoying. Mulan is the best Disney Renaissance film. No way, no how. Absolutely not. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad film, but what I am saying is that it's not the best Disney Renaissance film. It's not even in the top 5 of the best films from the Disney Renaissance. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hunchback of Notre Dame are all better than Mulan. I would even argue, and this is just an argument, I'm not saying that I believe it, but I would even argue that The Rescuers Down Under and Hercules are better, more entertaining films than Mulan. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad film. It's just that if we're going to compare good films to other good films, we're going to nitpick. There's going to be some issues. And I will say, as much as I love Mulan, it's not as iconic, it's not as memorable, and it didn't have as big of an impact as the 5 other films that I mentioned earlier. I could say it had a better impact than The Rescuers Down Under, and I think it's kind of tied with Hercules, but those 5 films, no, they're the untouchables. The old Disney movies were better than the films we get nowadays, in my opinion. When you say old Disney movies, how far back are we going? Are we going back to the Genesis, to the 1930s when Walt Disney started his animation studio? Or are we talking like the 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2000s, like the decades ago? Because if you're talking about any of those eras, I got news for you, buddy. They made bad films too. Let's not forget a lot of the racist films that Disney made in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Let's not forget that Black Cauldron came out in the 80s. Let's also not forget that Home on the Range, which I consider to be the worst Disney animated film of all time, was made in the 2000s. And so was Chicken Little and Meet the Robinsons. Alright? This is just terrible recency bias. I know that Disney has been shooting out a bunch of crappers with those live action Disney remakes of classic animated Disney films, but just because they are bad, don't get me wrong, they are bad, doesn't mean or even negate the fact that they made bad films in the past. You're wearing your nostalgia glasses and you need to take those off and realize that, okay, well, it was just as bad back then as it is now. And I would actually argue that it's slightly better now because we can make good, like the animation quality of some of Disney's films now are way better than they were back in the day. Storytelling has gone up. It's better. There's more diverse storytelling. There's more diverse stories to tell. The films in the early 2000s were better than the films in Walt's time, besides Home on the Range. They made sure to address that elephant in the room, or should I say cow in the room. Snow White is nothing remarkable if you take away the fact that it's the first of its kind. The Lion King is a bit overhyped, and Wreck-It Ralph 2 is the worst of their movies for how it completely missed the mark on everything the internet is. Okay, that is a lot to take in. At first I thought, okay, he's just gonna give me this straight shot where he's taking a shot at the old films compared to some of the newer films, but it looked like he wasn't really taking like a Smith & Wesson shot. More so, he was taking a shotgun and just blasted it, spewed all over the place. There's a lot of opinions to deconstruct there. Like I said in the previous comment when it came to the point of recency bias, again, there's a bit of recency bias when you talk about the films of the 2000s compared to Walt's time. Because I tell you right now, as much as I love Lilo and Stitch, as much as I love Atlantis Lost Empire, none of those films can compare to both Snow White and Pinocchio. Alright? Snow White, yes, it was not only was it the first of its kind, but it really set a trend there. The animation is still good, even by today's standards. Even by today's standards, it's still good. And Pinocchio is phenomenal. Not just in its animation, its storytelling, the music. When you wish upon a star. There is nothing that the 2000s films have compared to When You Wish Upon a Star. I love some of the films from the 2000s, but if we're really gonna, pull hairs here and talk about which is better, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stick with the old ones than the 2000s, because the 2000s, they really jeopardized the storytelling. The characters were not as memorable or good, nor were they as iconic. Outside of Lilo and Stitch, there wasn't anything from the 2000s that came close to being remarkable in any way. Now, as for Lion King being a bit overhyped, I could see that. For someone that doesn't like the Lion King, yeah, it's definitely overhyped. I'm glad you didn't say overrated. You said overhyped. There is a difference. So I'm thankful for that. As for Wreck-It Ralph 2, I don't think it's the worst. I actually enjoyed it personally. I do think that they did miss the mark in some parts, but it's not all that bad. I mean, honestly, your comment makes it sound as though Wreck-It Ralph 2 was like Disney's response to the Emoji Movie, and it's nowhere close to that film. Mulan 2020 is probably one of the worst movies in Disney history. Don't know a Disney movie worse than that one? Well, I could probably name 7 off the top of my head that are far worse than Mulan 2020. And keep in mind, I haven't even seen Mulan 2020. Now, do I agree with the commenter when they say that this film is one of the worst movies in Disney history? I'm gonna be a bit biased here and say yes. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. But not because of the overall quality of the film, remember, I haven't seen it, but because it belongs to those terrible misfits, abomination of films that we call the Disney live-action remakes of Disney animated classics. But as for films that are worse than Mulan 2020, Home on the Range. Easy. That is far... I can actually tolerate some things in Mulan 2020. I can't tolerate anything about Home on the Range. Chicken Little, same thing. Not as good. Black Cauldron, forget about it. Old Dog's not even good. Underdog, not a good film whatsoever. Mr. Magoo, does anybody even remember Mr. Magoo? That's a far worse film than Mulan 2020. Not only is it a far worse film, but it's even a worse remake than Mulan 2020. Because at least the old Mr. Magoo, that was fun. The animation was funny. When Leslie Nielsen is playing Mr. Magoo in a Disney film, it feels very forced. Right? What's that? That's like 5 right off the top of my head? Just 5? I mean, I could keep going, but let's just call it there for now. But yeah, I do agree it is one of the worst films, but it's not the worst film. And I'm sure if you really sat and thought about it, you can think of more films that are worse than Mulan 2020. I would dare say Lion King 2019, far worse. I would even say that Beauty and the Beast 2017, far worse, because it bastardized what were great films. Rogue One was the only good Star Wars movie made by Disney. I mean, you know, by process of elimination, I guess. I mean, I enjoyed The Force Awakens far more, but if we're talking about films that were trying to be its own thing, sure, it was the best. But really, is that saying much? Is that saying much considering that all the other films are just terrible, god-awful trash? Oh yeah, you're the king of the trash. It's like being the king of the bums. What does that mean? You're the king of all the losers? You're the best one of a pile of trash. You're grade A trash. There you go. I don't know if that's really a praise. But sure, I will concede the point, yeah. Rogue One is the best Star Wars film made by Disney. What makes the Red Man Red and the Siamese Cat song are racist and terrible by today's standards? Yeah. No disagreement here. I totally agree. Those are very, very outlandishly racist songs. What makes the Red Man Red? Wow. We are Siamese, if you please. Ugh. They're so cringy to listen to now. I feel bad for anybody that thinks those are good songs or were their favorite songs at one point. Oof. I feel as though moments like What Makes the Red Man Red and We Are Siamese, If You Please, and Zippity Doo-Dah, and all of the racist caricatures in Disney films of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s were like Disney's college years. And now that Disney is an older man, an older person, they look back on those years and they go, God, what was I thinking? That's so stupid. Up was only good for the first 20 minutes as the rest of the film turns into a generic adventure story. Generic? No. I wouldn't say generic. I wouldn't even say by the numbers. I would say thrilling. It is a really good adventure story. Yes, The rest of the film gets eclipsed by the first 20 minutes, which is remarkable. It's some of the best piece of animation, best piece of music put together with animation. It's a really well-told story with no dialogue whatsoever. But to say that the rest of the film doesn't matter, or you want to just negate it because of the first 20 minutes, don't do that. Up has so much more to offer than its first 20 minutes. That might be the main selling point, but there's so much more. The final conflict with the dogs in their little planes flying around, the final battle with Carl and the other old man on the Spirit of Adventure. I really liked it. It's a fun movie. I would say it is Pete Docter's weakest film, but even his weakest film is still a really good film. Frozen 2 may not have been an amazing sequel, but it was way more tolerable than Toy Story 4. At least Elsa and Anna are more open-ended to meet each other in the future. Woody was straight up a simp after Bonnie ignored him for a literal piece of trash. Whoa, dude. Ouch. Calling Woody a simp? I mean, I don't know how I feel about this comment. More tolerable. I don't know. They both got 3 out of 5s from me. They both got just they were okay. So to me they're equal. They're equally as mediocre, they're equally as safe. I don't think they both did anything really remarkable to say that one was better than the other. You may make the argument that they left it open-ended to where Elsa and Anna can meet again, and Woody basically just decides to stay with Bonnie, which I don't call a simp move. How is that a simp move? The guy loved her for years and had an opportunity to finally be with her. What, he's just gonna reject it because of somebody that doesn't want him? I mean, keep in mind, Bonnie didn't care about Woody. So what, you want him to go back to an abusive relationship? Or do you want him to be in a relationship where someone actually gives a damn about them? I would rather he go to that relationship than Bonnie any day. Because Bonnie's never there for him. Bonnie doesn't play with him. At least with Bo Peep, she'll be there for him. She loves him. Okay, so yeah, I don't agree that he's a simp. I don't think he's simping it out. He made the right choice. It was the best choice for him. It's the first time he was ever selfish, and he deserves it, damn it. Ralph Breaks the Internet is the Last Jedi of Disney? What? Are you serious? Bro, not even close. You are reaching, pal. Look, Ralph Breaks the Internet clearly was not as good as Wreck-It Ralph. We all can agree with that. And just by me saying that we all can agree with that already makes it not The Last Jedi of Disney. Because The Last Jedi was divisive from the get-go. It tore everybody apart, and everybody was in their own little factions about, oh, this film sucks. Oh, this film's great. You just don't get it, you know? And it caused it caused a schism in the Star Wars fan community. Ralph Breaks the Internet did not cause a schism in the Wreck-It Ralph fan community. As far as I know, no one ever criticized me for liking Ralph Breaks the Internet, nor have I ever heard anybody criticize someone for not liking the film. Now, when it gets to that point, then sure, it can be, but I have not heard a lot of internet chatter about Ralph Breaks the Internet being a terrible film, and then people lambasting that person, and someone saying it's a great film and lambasting that person compared to what I've seen with The Last Jedi. You couldn't escape the internet without seeing some video essay talking about The Last Jedi is a piece of crap, or The Last Jedi is the greatest film of all time. So yeah, you're wrong in that summation, bro. Ralph Breaks the Internet is nowhere close to The Last Jedi, and to even compare it to The Last Jedi is an insult. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes this special BCG Disney Week edition of Into the Void! Be sure to share your thoughts about this video in the comment section below, and let me know what you thought about some of the comments that you saw in the video as well. And let me know if you want to see more of these videos. I am thinking about doing more. I know I say that all the time, but I do really want to try to do more Into the Voids. They're really fun to do. And until then, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic crew, please hit that subscribe button below Like this video if you really enjoyed it. And I'm Tony Watt II, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.